How's everybody doing? It's Dukes and Bell. Mike has got some stuff going on. He may pop in here, but if he doesn't, trust me, he's got a lot to say about the Falcons coaching search coming up at 2 o'clock. So make sure you are there. Big O is here. Obviously, Day. Mark Raimondi is going to join us, guys, from ESPN to talk about this search and where we're at, where we are currently at. Here's what we know. Harbaugh's off the board. And as much as I wanted him, as much as I thought it was imperative that we gave a strong push to get him, we have to now pivot and say, what do we do now? Where are we going? And this morning on social media, I put out my new list of guys that I absolutely love. And there's one guy I like. That like guy is Brian Flores. The guys I love are Kubiak. That's Klint Kubiak. Obviously, I talked about Stefanski. And, I talked about Robert Saleh. Those three guys, two of those guys obviously have been head coaches. Klint has not. But where are you guys at with this Harbaugh news, man? Because New York put the full court press on. I guess he got home and decided, you know what, this is where I want to be. He did leave the building yesterday, which made us really believe that he was going to take these other interviews. Called the Titans. They were supposed to interview him today. That's done. And now Harbaugh's going to be the new head coach of the New York Football Giants. Big O?
Yeah, man. I literally, the news broke as soon as I got home last night from doing Prep Sports Nation. And I honestly, after I thought about it, I just kind of started wondering about, okay, and you guys touched on this. We've talked about it on here before, and you guys talked about it on the air. Like, I'm sure the Falcons were definitely interested. Who would not be interested in John Harbaugh? But what was their interest level in him? They kind of knocked that video interview out with him relatively right away, as soon as they could. And we really didn't hear much about, any takeaways. Usually with some of this, you hear some kind of like, Falcons were really impressed with what Harbaugh said, or, Harbaugh really likes what he sees with the Falcons. So I started thinking about that. And then I started to think about the fact that, a coach like him, after I saw the deal is reportedly going to be a 5-year, $100 million deal, a coach like him, I started to think, okay, 9 times out of 10, he wants a situation where he feels like he's going to have a really, really good chance of winning now, meaning next season. And when you look at the Falcons, does a coach like him feel that way? Mainly because I understand, we heard Matt Ryan say, Arthur Blank say that Michael Penix Jr. looks good and he's going to be ready. But we really don't know. Like, you're talking about is this a third leg injury, right? Yeah. Like, you just don't know. And so you just kind of have to wonder if that kind of uncertainty for a coach like John Harbaugh, who, again, he's ready. He probably realizes he's only got another probably at the most these 5 years at this. And does that year of uncertainty, is that something that would have gave him pause? So that's just one of the things I started to think about. And then does this GM role play did that have an impact? Because he, does he want a relationship? And we already heard Arthur Blank say that it's important that they kind of bring in these two roles simultaneously. Did John Harbaugh feel like he wasn't comfortable with what he heard about where they're at in their GM search? So those are just some of the things. Now it's a matter of who's next for me. I kind of do like the pivot of going with a Klint Kubiak. I get you don't want all these newbies, all these first timers. I understand that. But I think with someone like Matt Ryan there to kind of guide, not be hands-on, but just kind of help and guide, maybe Klint Kubiak could find some success.
Oh, what do you got? What do you think, brother?
I guess I'm going here from the fans' perspective. You can be both disappointed, but also still excited about what may be to come with this head coaching search. Excited because there's still viable candidates out there like Stefanski, like Klint Kubiak, guys who can come in here and make a difference. But at the same time, I mean, if Harbaugh was the most desirable guy and the most desirable guy said he had an interest in you and then did not end up coming here and went someplace else, you're allowed to feel a certain way about that. I would have loved to have seen Harbaugh here. And I wonder what it is, at his point, about this Falcons team that made him say, you know what? New York is the place ultimately over all these teams I want to be. Was it just a matter of he had New York in his mind from the get-go and it wasn't going to be any other place? We heard yesterday and he had so much mutual respect for Matt Ryan that could kind of elicit a conversation with Harbaugh here. Well, that mutual respect, I guess, only went so far. So the Giants had that great quarterback coming back in Jackson Dart. They got a great core in Abdul Carter and Malik Neighbors, and
who was hurt?
it was hurt last
Cam
year.
Scatterboo, who was hurt?
Cam Scatterboot.
They got some questions too. Now I
They
think
got questions.
those guys are young and they're going to be back. But I feel you. I mean, like that's the thing we don't know. Mike has joined us, by the way. I said Mike, we had some stuff going on. He may jump in. We're talking about obviously the reaction to Harbaugh and where the Falcons go now, as we'll discuss this in depth, guys, on the show today, starting at 2:00. And as I mentioned, Mark Ramondi, our guest. And not to cut you off, but I feel you on this.
No.
I just think, like, when you look at their roster, they have major pieces that are coming off of injuries as well. And, as young as Scatterboo is and Malik Neighbors, who I think is going to be a stud and was, they're going to be fine. But it's not as if everything is a given there as well, talking about our injuries with the Falcons. Mike, want to bring you in. Want to bring you in, bro. What you got?
Sorry about that. Yeah, I got the dogs all holding the cables together. So if I freeze up like Eli on that Jersey Subs commercial that Danny DeVito made the billboard out of, just let me know. But we were talking about Kubiak off the air. I've always wanted Kubiak. I want young and fresh. I know guys are scared off because we've never had a proven guy with a record like Harbaugh or Mike Tomlin if he ever does become available in this cycle. I'm still with Kubiak because I love what he does with the run game. The Giants guys, and we don't know where this goes. I heard arguments from Day and Oren. We might be thought of as more dysfunctional. I mean, they might look at Arthur Blank and where we've been and say, I don't know, man, there's a lot of stuff going on there. Jackson Dart, he looks like a guy that, he might value Jackson Dart over Paddix Jr. We're look at all the guys in the playoffs right now. 8 of the 9 guys are mobile quarterbacks. These are the guys that they can move, or 7 of the 8, I should say, that are left are guys that can move, and we've got a guy who's the old school pocket passer with 2 bum knees. So I don't know if that might have been a consideration. Maybe we were never willing to come up to that money. Carl, you mentioned that $100 million.
It's a lot, bro.
It's a lot of loot. I like Kubiak. I'm not interested in Stefanski, but we'll see. And as you also brought up, maybe Harbaugh was not our priority one. He was for the fans because it was such a shock that he was available.
Yeah. And look, everybody is saying, how do we know he was the number one guy? Because he's off the board. Let's not be ignorant about this. This
was the first,
correct. This was a pecking order from teams across the league that said, I have my preference. Who's the first guy? Kevin Stefanski's been out there. These other guys who are available have been out there. Harbaugh becomes available, and within days, he's hired. So let's not fool ourselves with, well, how do we know he was the number one guy? That's a given. He had the most credibility. He brings instant credibility to your franchise. That is why the Giants press so hard. He's now off the board. Our focus now, Mike, Day, is we still got to get this shit right. we can't just say, okay, Harbaugh's gone and we can still screw this up. We still need a culture builder. We still need, to Mike's point, somebody that's going to come in and run this offense, God forbid, and we score more than 17 or 19 points a game. We still need somebody to come in and still be an overseer, even though Matt's going to do these hires, and make this thing work. So I am not like sitting back and going, okay, woe is us, but let's not fool ourselves about this either. This is still a monumental decision, Mike, that this team and Matt Ryan are going to have to make. And if you go Kubiak, great. If you go, I said my 3 guys, Saleh. I like Saleh because he's now proven to me what we thought about the Jets is true. So you talk about the dysfunction, that's not all on Saleh, right? Then he says, all right, fine, I'm going to go back to being a DC. And he made an amazing adjustments this year with the 49ers. And if they get to the Super Bowl, it just shows you how his mind and his ability to adjust with players, street free agents, etc. I think he's shown some real versatility. And, Mike, I think he's grown becoming a head coach. Then we talk about Stefanski. Those are my 3 guys. I put Brian Flores down there, Mike. If it's not Kubiak, who is it, guys? Who else where else would you go?
I love Flores, but I said yesterday, Oren and Day, that I just wonder if Arthur Blank, being a loyal NFL owner, it's loyal in the sense to Goodell and the structure. Is he want that smoke? Because, Flores still has that lawsuit, which I'm wondering how many owners will take the interview, but it's more like window dressing. They're not going to pull the trigger on Flores. I hope that's not the case because he's a great coach.
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, I mean, he's 44 for those who don't know. So it's not like Flores. You talk about getting young and like that's a guy that could be here a decade if things were to go right. But I'm with you, Mike. That's the one question I don't know if anybody really knows. Everybody publicly is going to say, oh, great candidate. Has anybody got the balls to hire him? That's really what this is going to come down to. What do you guys think? If it's not Kubiak, Day, if it's not Klint Kubiak, who is it for you? Where are you going?
I would go Stefanski. I would go Stefanski if it's not Kubiak.
Okay.
Again, you guys, we've talked about it a lot. Like the whole situation in Cleveland. You can't put all of that on him. Them going after, them deciding to give all that money to Deshaun Watson. Like, you can't put all that on him. So I think he's probably the next most proven, because it sounds like Tomlin's not going to be in the circle. Now, here's the coach. I think here's the one everyone's probably going to be keeping an eye on. Matt LaFleur. Him and the Packers still have not put anything out there yet in regards to his future.
Yeah.
So now, before you go hardcore Kevin Stefanski, do you kind of give it a few days, see what's going to happen with this Matt LaFleur? Because that's who I think you go. If you're the Falcons, you go hardcore press Matt LaFleur if somehow, some way he comes available. But if not, to me, it's Kevin Stefanski.
It's fair. Real quick. Oh, before I get to you, that's fair, Day. Here's what I think about that. Mike, tell me what you think. If LaFleur didn't want to be there, he could have pulled a Tomlin.
Right.
He could have easily said, I'm good, I'm walking away. He's sort of giving them the option to do right by him. So I think they're going to get a deal, Day. It feels like he's going to say, hey, I know, I don't want to be a lame duck coach. I got a year left, but I want to be here, and I'm going to give you a chance to make this right. If he didn't want to be there and he knew he had these other options maybe available, he could have easily stepped away. But again, they may have still done the Tomlin thing where they own his rights and you would have had to trade for him. So, but I'm with you. If it doesn't work out, I'm going after LaFleur. Oh, go ahead. Well, who's your guy if it's not Kubiak? And I don't know if he's your second guy.
It's Stefanski, like today's point talking about him.
No,
it's just from an offensive standpoint, it makes the most sense. And if Pennis is not the guy to start the season, it's going to be out for a while. Stefanski has the most experience working with Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, he has the most experience working without a quarterback. Because he
does that too, but he does have a quarterback. I feel the most comfortable with a transitional period moving into something new with Stefanski than I do with anybody else. And granted, when it was bad in Cleveland, it wasn't great, but he also had 2 11-win seasons in Cleveland. And how many coaches in the last 40 years can say they had 2 11-win seasons in Cleveland? Like, not very many. And that goes to show that there's some level of talent there. And from an offensive standpoint, too, this is going to be a guy that's going to commit to being under center, commit to the play action game, commit to the run game. These are things that we need from an offensive standpoint to be foundational here. And I think Kevin Stefanski will do the best job of doing that.
Mike, I want to go back to something you said. It's Dukes and Bell, guys. It's Behind the Curtain. Mark Romani is going to join us today. We're chasing some other guests, get some reaction to the Harbaugh thing, because, again, we didn't even get the face-to-face. But neither did the Titans. I mean, how do you feel today if you're the Titans? You get that call probably overnight, right? Last night.
Did you see what they said? They said the plane was ready
to go.
And
get ready to roll.
All the personnel was ready to hop on the plane and head to Baltimore.
Yeah.
And then they got the call.
That's crappy. So, but that's the way these things go. But I want to go back to something Mike said, because I think it is a reflection of something I was saying this morning, which is we are perceived to always get second fiddle. We never get the hotness, the number one guy, whether it's coaching cycles or other things with the Falcons. Think about it. It's always we're going to get the second best tight end. And I'm not using Kyle Pitts. I'm just generally speaking. You can go back in the history of this franchise and say, when have we, outside of Mike Vick, gone and got that guy? That's the dude, and we're going to go get him. And so when you talk about these coaching cycles, it's so rare where you have a predominant guy like Harbaugh, who mostly every team goes, yeah, if we can get him, we'd love to have him. Nobody would have refused him if he wanted to go there. Titans wouldn't have said no. Long story short, Mike, it gets back to the dysfunction you were talking about and what maybe the perception is of our organization right now. Hell, guys, we've gone through, 3 coaches, Mike, in 6 years?
Yeah. You think about it, man, going back to Dan Quinn. Raheem was interim. Of course, Smith didn't pan out. So we'll see. And Raheem. So I know that Matt Ryan, it's a breath of fresh air. It's a new look, at least for the fans. We think we've got a guy that can make an educated decision about this and do everything you just talked about to reset this franchise. But I wonder, do people feel, for instance, what does Shanahan tell Kubiak? Like, what does Kyle say? Tell Kubiak, yeah, it's good. But Arthur, man, he gets his hands all over it. I don't know. I mean, what would Arthur, if you called Arthur Smith, what would Arthur Smith tell you? If you're calling, because all these guys know each other.
Yep.
That franchise, man, and too many cooks. So we'll see. But that's why, again, Matt has been brought in to change all that and to streamline it. I like Kubiak. I think you look at the job that Liam Cohen has done in Jacksonville, Ben Johnson. I know it's apples to oranges, but Kubiak is a run-first guy. We got a better run game than he even had in Seattle with Bijan. We may have to lose Algier, but we'll find somebody to back up Bijan. We've got a lot of weapons here, and we've got to get Penix where he needs to be. Whatever you think Penix is, he's got to be better. I think we could all agree there. And that's why I like that. I have an offensive mind. With Stefanski, we got to talk to somebody from Cleveland and get underneath the fingernails of what happened up there. And how much of this is Jimmy Haslam, how much of this is the GM, because that is the ultimate dysfunctional franchise.
Yeah, and Andrew Berry is just like Joe Shane, in my opinion, Mike. He's there. He's conducting the search and all this stuff, but it's like, is he lame duck as well? Like, I'm curious to see in 2 seasons with Harbaugh there if Joe Shane's going to be there. Like, he's there now, but let's see if they can really collaborate and work together and all the things we've been hearing about in New York. It's going to be interesting. Guys, I know we're running a little bit late today, but this is a huge story, and it affects our football team. So we're going to be talking about it with you. We want to hear from you today on the phones as well. You can always find us on social media. We will mention and talk about the Hawks. Apparently there was a trade from another team that is looming, or at least was talked about. We also will get into these other moves around the NFL. First domino is falling. We told you this last week. We told you it was going to be Harbaugh. We didn't know where. Now who's next? Teams do not have to wait on Harbaugh anymore. Everybody that was interested or thought they might have a shot. So, Mike, these next few days may be boom, boom, boom.
I think they're all Rudy compliant right now, too. So it's just a matter of not if, but when.
Yeah, so I think, Mike, we could see a bunch of quick hires. Remember, so what is there, 7 jobs available now? 7, right?
Again, and today was the last day you could talk to somebody like Kubiak. We talked to Kubiak on January 10th. Presume that was a phoner. So if we do earmark Kubiak, they may have a chance to talk to him today. It's 3 days after the last wild card game that was Monday night, according to NFL rules. And then basically it's radio silence till the Super Bowl week.
If I'm the Falcons, I offer, Mike, why wait? Again, we won't know that until it's announced, guys, because, again, the NFL rules. But if I'm the Falcons, I'm like, look, we know you're in the playoffs. We're offering, right?
Right. I just I'm down on Kubiak. I'll die on that hill, and if he flames out somewhere, I'll say, hey, I'll take it. I'll take the L. But I think scared money don't make money, as Carl likes to say, and they say. I just think you shouldn't be afraid of the young gun to get that young guy hit. Hopefully, we'll be here for 10 years, and we'll have our own new, Sean McVay type.
Let's hope so. Man, we got to get it right. Atlanta, we're going to talk with you at 2:00 today. Thanks for being here. It's Behind the Curtain. By the way, tell your friends, man, we do this every day. Twitch, YouTube, Insta. It's all over our socials, so you get a chance to check it out. All right? We'll talk to you guys at 2 today.